JacobTubeHD, welcome back to the movie I want to talk about. The show that clearly couldn't get enough of the live studio audience from yesterday because now there's a creepy baby doll sitting on that couch. It's not even creepy looking, it's just looks like a baby doll you would find at Target. I just don't know how it got on that small couch. It's just sitting there staring at me. I don't know how to feel about it. It's like all my insecurities just judging everything I do. It's not scary, but it's definitely unsettling. It feels weird that no matter what I do down here, that doll is just staring at me at all times. I don't know who put that down here, but I am going to kick their ass. I don't have any premonitions telling me the next franchise I'm supposed to review like last year, but that doll is giving me an idea. Horror movie killers are murderers with knives or knives for fingers. Why wouldn't you make that figure a doll that comes to life and tries to stab you to death? Men trying to kill people is overrated and overplayed in the horror genre. Get rid of the men being murderers and replace them with dolls kids buy and play with so you can traumatize many generations of kids, making them scared of any doll they play with because it could kill them. It's almost as scary as a baby doll watching you review movies about a killer doll that has now disappeared. That's fun. I'm definitely not gonna have nightmares about that. Why would I now fear of where the fuck that thing went? This is Child's Play. This film is about a dying serial killer transferring his consciousness into a popular kid's doll. A struggling single mother gives her son Andy the doll for his birthday, but once the doll shows his true colors to Andy, he has to fight for his life even if no one believes him. Once again, we have another massive franchise with a decent start. Chucky is definitely the most unique killer in the horror genre. Other films have tried to replicate the killer doll, but Chucky is a very innovative concept for the time. Chucky gets more entertaining to watch in the second half of the film as he starts revealing himself to be alive. In the first half, he just acts like the doll since only Andy knows he's really alive. It's also just very impressive to see Chucky being brought to life since everything is done practically, which is impressive for the 80s. There's never a moment where you don't believe that Chucky is a doll that's walking and talking. None of the very few side characters really have any defining traits that make them stand out. The only characters that captivate you in this film are Andy and his mother. Both of them are the emotional core of the film, with Andy being an innocent kid who no one believes, and the mother going more and more insane as she figures out the mystery behind Chucky. Speaking of the mystery, it does have a tad bit of mystery that's solved fairly quickly, so you don't have much time to sink your teeth into it. The film really becomes special in the second half, since the first half is just world building and for people to not believe Andy, which is overdone by these types of horror films. It has a decent start, but towards the end you can see why this film became a classic that spawned an iconic killer. Child's Play gets a 3 out of 5 dolls that want to watch the 9 o'clock news. Why? Just why? Is someone coming down here and moving the thing? I shouldn't be calling a baby a thing, but it's a doll, so it's okay. Either someone is very stealthy and moving it, I'm going insane in this basement, or the doll's alive, which is a sign that I'm going insane in this basement, because why would a doll be alive in real life? I have mental health issues that I don't get checked in therapy, but I don't have enough to where I would be seeing dolls come to life. I only want dolls to breathe and talk in movies, not in real life. You know what, I'm doing too much for a mild coincidence. I always do this. I take something small and blow it out of proportion. And I never learn from my mistakes because I still do it. Let's continue to review before I assume that the doll wants to kill me. This is Child's Play 2. This film is about Andy being placed in a foster home following the events of the last film. The manufacturers of Chucky reconstruct the doll to prove to the public that nothing was ever wrong with the doll. Doing this brought back the soul of the serial killer Charles Ray, who tries to locate Andy once again. I can't tell if this one is better or worse because what I like and dislike about the last film come back for the sequel. Chucky's personality definitely shines more here since he doesn't have to pretend to be a regular doll. Once again, it's very impressive to see them bring this doll to life with practical effects. Andy's once again our emotional core for the film, but there's nothing new being done with him. His acting has improved, but he's just doing the same thing he did in the first film. We do get new characters as Andy is sent to a foster family. None of the members of this family really stand out here. Kyle is somewhat interesting since she is also an orphan, but the parents are very two-dimensional characters with not a lot of depth to them. It does fall into the critiques I have with the first film, where most of it is just the family not believing Andy until things start to ramp up towards the end. I get why it's necessary for the story, but it's so repetitive in horror films. Also, like the first film, it starts picking up and getting more enjoyable in the final half hour as all the important characters that we're following believe Andy, and now the film is about stopping Chucky. The kills are way more entertaining than they ever were in the first film, and they get more unique here. It does improve the elements I loved about the first film, but it also falls into the same problems I had with the first film. Child's Play 2 gets a 3 out of 5 kids smoking cigarettes. It's nice reviewing movies about killer dolls, especially when a doll is in the... It's horrifying! That doll moved a few centimeters! How'd it do that? Normally when weird things happen, I just assume water did it, but there's no water down here. Maybe the wind moved the doll, but I don't buy it. Wind can't move baby dolls. Wind can only move real babies. I haven't tested it out, but Wikipedia says it's true, so I believe it. This baby doll has moved 3 times, and while I'm starting to get worried, I think this is a sign that I should review the third movie. This is Child's Play 3. This film is about Charlie now being a teenager who is enrolled in military school. The toy company decides to re-release the Good Guys line, thinking enough time had passed. This brings back the spirit of Charles and searches for Andy again. However, when Chucky falls into the hands of a younger boy, he realizes it would be easier to transfer his soul into this new kid, and Andy has to put a stop to this. It seems like with every entry, this franchise can elevate its killer, but not anyone else surrounding the killer. Once again, Chucky steals the show, being the most interesting character in the film. He has the most personality out of anyone here, and he's just entertaining to watch. Also, the kills just keep getting more and more creative with each film. The location of a military school is unique, but they only really utilize it to the fullest for kills towards the end. Alex is not interesting this time around. He can't really be the film's emotional anchor because he's no longer the main target, and he's no longer a child. They really don't do a lot with his character besides helping out the new kid Chucky's after. None of these new characters bring anything interesting to the table besides being a love interest for Alex or to bully him. The only new character that you actually root for is Tyler, which is the new kid Chucky is after. He's our new emotional anchor, and he's an innocent kid who just really wanted a Good Guys doll. He's so sweet and fun to watch. You almost feel bad for him when he gets manipulated by Chucky into thinking that he is Tyler's friend. Besides Tyler, there's not enough reasons to care about the rest of the cast in order to root for them. They're just bland characters that you aren't able to connect with. Once again, we have a really fun killer at the price of interesting characters that have to survive that killing. Child's Play 3 gets a 3 out of 5 heart attacks caused by dolls. I finished reviewing a movie, which means that the doll is gonna move, and I'm starting to find it unusual. I'm not scared yet, but I'm slightly disturbed by this. You know what? I'm just gonna look over there, and whatever happens, happens. How? How are there now 2 of them? When the fuck did the second one even show up? I think I'm mentally insane because there's no realistic way a second doll could show up. They look like they're getting married. Why are 2 baby dolls getting married? Did they develop a whole relationship while I was reviewing the last movie? If they were able to form a relationship and marry each other in minutes, then they got a stronger relationship than most marriages. Most marriages end in divorce, but if they're already married now, then they're staying together. I don't even know how divorce would work for 2 dolls that are babies. They aren't people, and they don't own any property, so you get nothing in a divorce besides disappointment. You know what? I guess this is appropriate for our next movie, since it's about marriage. The child finally grew up because this isn't Child's Play 4. Time to embrace the doll that kills any child that plays with him. This is Bride of Chucky. This film is about Chucky being revived by a former lover named Tiffany. Chucky transfers Tiffany's soul into a doll and follows a pair of newlyweds to achieve an amulet that can turn them both back into humans. I finally did it! I finally had fun watching a Chucky movie! Jennifer Tilly as Tiffany is the perfect addition to this franchise. She's such a unique and fun character to watch in every scene she's a part of. She is a breath of fresh air after 3 films with bland characters that barely have any personality. Chucky is also just as fun here as he's been throughout the franchise. Chucky and Tiffany have an incredible dynamic throughout the film that's a blast to watch throughout the movie, whether they love or hate each other. Their relationship even goes through a bit of a story arc throughout the film with their love-hate relationship. Our 2 human leads are the most interesting characters this franchise has had to offer, but that isn't a high bar to reach. Every other supporting character is bland and isn't even on screen for that long. The kills are the most creative they have ever been, being more bloody and gruesome than ever before. I think these characters being teens and not kids allowed for there to be more bloodshed in this film, and it clearly shows. It is the breath of fresh air I've been waiting for, with characters you can actually root for, and a new addition that adds a lot more fun to this film. Bride of Chucky gets a 3 out of 5 dolls having sex. Now there's just one doll and it looks upset. Oh, they got a divorce. It's sad. I don't know how that legally works, but it's still sad. I really thought they were gonna make it, but now they're just another statistic. It's upsetting seeing a creepy baby doll upset. Makes me feel less worried for my safety because I'm not outnumbered. I don't know why I need to worry for my safety, but I think it's necessary. This doll had a full marriage and divorce. I don't know what this thing is capable of. Now that I'm properly worried about my own safety and potentially my life, we should move on to the next movie. This is Seed of Chucky. This film is about Chucky and Tiffany being resurrected by their orphan kid, Glenn. They head to Hollywood for their next murder spree, especially since a movie is being made about their previous crimes. This film is insane in every sense of the way. Chucky and Tiffany are just as fun as they were in the last film. They even go through their own journeys as characters once they find out about their kid, as Tiffany wants to stop killing and Chucky doesn't want to stop. They treat killing like an addiction, and it's hilarious. Speaking of the kid, they're an interesting addition to the dynamic. They're a really sweet character who is the only doll here that doesn't want to kill and even gets scared by the body count their parents rack up. Also, Glenn or Glenda is gender fluid, which is why I've been referring to them as they. It doesn't come off as insensitive though, because they genuinely don't know what gender they are and feel like both. The human characters here are very interesting since they're both playing themselves. Jennifer Tilly, who plays Tiffany, also plays herself, which is just hilarious. She's great as an exaggerated version of herself, and it's interesting to see her interact with Tiffany as they're both the same person interacting with each other. Redman is the other main person we follow since Busta Rhymes and Halloween Resurrection wasn't enough for hip-hop artists being in horror franchises. Redman is fun and entertaining in the role. He doesn't add much else besides comedy, but his character isn't required of anything else besides comedy. The kills are once again even crazier than before when they do happen. Also, even weirder stuff happens in this film that only gets weirder in an unrated cut. I won't describe what I'm talking about, but I never want to imagine a doll doing that ever again. This is the craziest film of the bunch, but it has a surprising amount of heart when it comes to the kid of these killer dolls that somehow makes them grow as dolls. Seed of Chucky gets a 3 out of 5 dolls pissing their pants. This movie was about Chucky having a kid, and I am praying to God that this baby doll doesn't have a baby, because that would be creepy, even knowing the fact that it's just a doll, and that would be genetically impossible. Thank you, Jesus! The doll is just looking through records, even though that's further away from me. Maybe he just realized that vinyls were back there and wanted to see if there was any good albums. Can't blame it. I would have done the same thing, especially with how cool that new record player is. If that doll is like me, it's going to spend hours crate digging, so I can focus less on what that creepy doll would do, and I can fully focus on reviewing these movies. This is Curse of Chucky. This film is about NECA, who has been in a wheelchair since birth, dealing with the passing of her mother and her family arriving to say their goodbyes. She receives a package with a creepy doll, but once people start showing up dead, she suspects that the creepy doll is more than just a doll. This is the first film in the franchise to not be released in theaters and went straight to DVD instead. I'm very shocked that this one didn't get released in theaters because this is the best this franchise has been in a while. Chucky is a bit more reserved in this film since he's pretending to be a real doll in front of his family. His personality starts to shine towards the end of the movie when members of the family start figuring out the truth about Chucky, and he's just as fun as ever when he's able to be himself. We finally have characters that we can fully root for and connect with. NECA is a crippled person who is dealing with the passing of her mother. There's enough depth to her where you're able to relate with her and root for her survival throughout the film. The rest of the family doesn't get explored too much, but NECA is the main focus here with interesting stuff from Barb that I don't want to ruin. She's pretty much a spoiled rich person with an interesting element added to the character. The kills aren't as gory as the last two, but they're still very brutal kills. It feels like the franchise is returning back to basics by being the closest thing to a horror film in a while, but also adding characters that you're able to relate with like the previous two films. We also have our second shot at a mystery, but done way better as we try to figure out why the Chucky doll was sent to NECA. We even have an incredible payoff to the mystery that ties Chucky to this family that you don't see coming. It's a beautiful return to form with a character you can actually root for and an incredible twist that puts this whole franchise in a new perspective. Curse of Chucky gets a 4 to 5 random close-up shots of mouths. Now this next film is about one of my favorite pastimes, joining cults. I think joining a cult is a great way to meet new people. A lot of people join cults and I want to learn how to be more social. I need to put myself out there and interact with people, so I join cults. They're not as bad as people think they are. Cults are actually really fun. You get to meet fun people and see the fun things they believe in. One cult I joined believes in this stone hand that can answer any question in the world. Another cult believes in a goat god named Bertle who they can ride into heaven. It's so awesome. I've joined a lot of cults, but I've never seen a cult started by a serial killer doll. That sounds like a blast, and luckily they made a movie about it. This is Cult of Chucky. This film is about NECA being taken to an asylum, making her believe that she's responsible for the deaths of her family. Her psychiatrist introduces a doll as a therapy tool, but when that doll starts killing people, she starts to realize that maybe she isn't crazy. Also, Andy races to her aid, but is stopped by Tiffany. So if we took the world of the last film and didn't do much with the characters, we would have this movie. I sound like a broken record, but once again, Chucky is a blast to watch in every scene he's in where he gets to be himself. The cult element is confusing throughout the film and doesn't get explained until the end. It's interesting as a concept and there's a bit of a mystery as to why there's multiple Chuckies, but it's the title of the movie and it only gets explained at the end. NECA is back and you're able to connect with her more in the last film than you do here because she's nothing more than someone labeled as crazy for believing Chucky is real. Her performance here is incredible, but there's nothing here that develops her character more. We get a good amount of people not believing that Chucky is alive, which is a problem I had with some other films in this franchise, but the location justifies it more since we're in a mental hospital filled with crazy patients with their own mental disorders. This film being set in a mental hospital gives us some interesting supporting characters with their unique quirks. Andy and Tiffany are sprinkled throughout the film and don't really show up until the end of the movie. They don't really add much to this film's story and just don't have much to do here in general. I never thought I'd be impressed with the cinematography of a Chucky movie, but holy shit, this movie has some incredible shots. The kills are once again very brutal when they happen. Some of the kills towards the end are probably the most brutal kills this franchise has ever seen. It has a lot of exciting elements, but doesn't do a lot with those elements, and if they do, it's saved for the end. Cult of Chucky gets a 3 to 5 drills to the head. For those of you wanting a doll update, it's now right in front of me. It's even threatening me with the butter knife. You know what? I am brave. I will not feel threatened by a doll holding a butter knife. You've been teasing me this entire time. I've been talking about the Chucky films, trying to scare me, but I won't let you get to me. I am a man and you are a doll. You don't control me. I control me. I will not be dictated by fear of a doll that hasn't even done anything to me besides move around. I'm a genetic freak and I'm not normal. I'm going to review this last movie and be completely fine when doing it. Let's dive into the last film, which is a reboot because that's a staple for any massive horror film franchise I review on this show. This is Child's Play, the reboot. This film is about a mother gifting her son Andy an innocent buddy doll that becomes his friend. But when the doll takes on a life of its own, it's up to Andy and the other neighborhood children to stop the sinister toy. This film is a complete reboot of the original film and has Mark Hamill voicing Chucky because a killer doll needs to be voiced by Luke Skywalker. There's a TV show continuing the story of the previous films that just got canceled, but this episode is already long enough. We don't need to add 3 seasons of a TV show to this review. Horror reboots get a bad rap on this show, and this film doesn't make it better. The new design for this Chucky doll looks weird. In fact, how Chucky operates here is weird. Chucky is pretty much turned into a rogue AI robot that's overprotective of Andy rather than a typical doll possessed by a serial killer. It takes the fun out of Chucky as a character because it just removes all the personality that made the character so fun. He's creepier here, but it doesn't have the charm the original Chucky had. Andy is the main kid we follow, and he's a fine character. The kid who plays Andy is a great performer, and you can connect with him a bit as he's a kid in a new environment who doesn't have a lot of friends. Besides that, there's nothing much of note with Andy besides him reacting to how crazy Chucky is. The only other human character that sticks out here is the mother, only because Aubrey Plaza elevates any role she plays no matter what material she's given. If there's one positive thing that I can say about this movie is that its kills are gruesome. It's definitely more gruesome than the original Child's Play, but there's been more disgusting deaths in this franchise. Doesn't stop this film from trying to be the most gruesome of the bunch though. It has some unique elements, but sacrifices the things that make the Chucky films special and unique. The Child's Play reboot gets a 3 out of 5 cats Chucky wants to kill. Well, I reviewed all the movies and my life is intact. The doll even lost its butter knife because it knows that I won. I'm better than a stupid doll who couldn't do shit to hurt me besides make me feel slightly scared. This is just a doll. It's not alive. It doesn't have feelings and it can't kill me. This doll couldn't even take me in a fight if it wanted to. Ah! Take me out that easily, huh? How dare you? Do you? You think you're so slick? You think you can fight me, you stupid doll? Time for the grand finale! That's right! I won! Not you! I am victorious. Let's just do the overview. Overall, this franchise started with average films with basic characters, but got more and more personality over time. One thing that has always remained a constant is that Chucky is a fun character that brings life into any scene he's in. My favorite is Curse of Chucky for having the most interesting characters and unique story to follow. My least favorite is the reboot for taking away the one thing that made every Chucky film enjoyable, which is Chucky's personality. I just fought a doll that tried to kill me, and I'm exhausted. Never let me fight a person ever. I'm out of breath after fighting a doll. I would die if I fought a person like that. I would pass away. And not because the other guy would beat the living shit out of me, but because I would get so dehydrated that I would pass out and then pass away. It would be the most pathetic way to die. I wouldn't even get to go to heaven because God would be too embarrassed by how I died. I need water. Lots of water. Copious amount of water pouring all over me.